Shabbat shalom, everyone. Good to see you here. Good, good. I'm sure we'll fill up a little more. I think the breeze is good. Keeps us awake a little bit. So just an introduction. First of all, sitting and listening to your breath is just good for you. Forget about the spiritual stuff. Okay? It's good for you. If you did it every day, a few minutes a day, you'll be better off. Right? It's like coming to shul every week. For those 3 hours, you'll not be hit by a car. So it's better for you. So that's one thing. So we have different levels. We're hearing more about the four worlds and all that. So the first one essentially is being here right now. That's it, being alive. And we'll be saying that in a moment. And second is basically that it helps if you want to connect with something deeper inside of you. Immanence, if you will, getting away necessarily from always reaching out, but realize you have within yourself the capacity to do all kinds of things, really. Most importantly, when you sit, is you have the capacity to liberate yourself from the stream of thought, which everybody has. You know, as I say, some people think you have to clear your mind in order to meditate. You can't clear your mind. Maybe brainstem death, even there, I don't know. But for the most part, all of us are going to have stories to tell, and et cetera. And the third thing is that if you have a desire or a wish to sort of raise up yourself to a place where you can encounter the divine, however you understand it, we often translate it here as the unfolding of reality, that by going out into the world, you get a connection that maybe you didn't have before. So that is also possible. But these are practices. There's no desire to really get anywhere. We just want to be in the moment. Because the minute you start setting a goal for yourself, you'll begin judging yourself, I'm not doing it well, etc., or you begin craving things, and that's also not really very helpful. So we'll begin with I Am Alive. It's a beautiful little song that I always forget the tune. That's why we're going to have to get some help from our wonderful here, our choir. And let's begin. You'll learn the words very, very soon. Very easy. Okay. I am alive. I am alive. I'm alive. And who is this aliveness I feel? And who is this aliveness I am? Wow, is this aliveness I am? Is it not the holy blessed one? I am alive, I'm alive. And who is this aliveness I am? And what is this aliveness I am? And how is this aliveness I am? Not the eternally blessed one. I am alive. I am alive. I'm alive. And who is this aliveness I am? And why is this aliveness this I am. And how is this alive, this I am? Is it not the Holy Blessed One? Ay, da, 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 da. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, da, 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 da. I'm alive. Ay, da, 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 da. I'm alive. I'm alive. Ay, da, 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 da. Ay, I am not the Holy Blessed One. So I invite you to sit comfortably in your chair, your feet on the ground, untangle yourself, your feet on your hands on your knees or in a comfortable position. Take a deep cleansing breath. Releasing the tension. And then gently pay attention to your breathing. Air entering your nostrils and exhaling. And as your mind tells your stories, try to return. Each return is our every moment act of tshuva, of return.
So what happens when we bring our full attention to each moment of this Shabbat service? It was our plan to leave silent space for each chant, and I guess the outdoor conditions aren't cooperating with us. But still, we can tune in to the aliveness we feel, the reverberations of each chant that we sense in our body. And each morning we begin with the blessing, Asher Yatzar, a blessing for this breathing body. With this prayer, the soul appreciates being held in the body, for how else could we be here together participating in sacred practice? And today, on Shabbat Hagadol, the Shabbat right before Passover, we immerse ourselves in the theme of liberation, and we're guided by our contemplative practice to explore the inner experiences of freedom and enslavement as an entryway to preparation for this holiday. And so, from a Jewish perspective, and also from the perspective we learned from the ancient stream of meditation traditions, we discover that we can live in a community that grants us many freedoms, but we can still be enslaved by the authoritarian thinking patterns that sometimes rule our minds. The repetitive habits of our minds, especially the habitual ways we think about ourselves, keep us in Mitzrayim, a narrow place, when in fact we could be liberated at any moment. So one particularly narrow place is our habitual way of thinking about me, myself as a solid, stable thing that should be living up to some stable standard. I should be doing better. I should be doing more now. I'm not a good meditator. I'll never be good at this. And we fail to see that it's the very nature of this mind-body process of fluid, ever-changing flow of energy to change and be different in every context. We are each like a little wave in the great ocean, a form that arises from and dissolves back into the sea with its own distinct shape and function for its lifetime, but always returning to the great sea. So this year, as I looked at the Asher Yatzar prayer, also known as the bathroom prayer, in this context, I realized for the first time that this blessing celebrates the permeable and contextual nature of the body. How? The prayer focuses on the openings in the human body, which symbolize our interdependence and interconnection with all of life. Blessed are you, Yah, who formed us with wisdom and created within us many openings and hollow spaces. And it's obvious and known before you that even if one of those closed spaces should be opened or one of those open spaces sealed, it would be impossible to survive and stand before you for even 1 hour. Blessed are you, Yah, who heals all flesh and acts wondrously. Through these openings and hollow spaces, we exchange air, extract nutrients, and return what we do not need to the earth. These openings make us interdependent, unable to exist separately from the rest of life and the natural world. So now, sitting and tuning in to the ever-changing nature of aliveness within each of us, we gather our fragmented attention from the diaspora of our consciousness to bring our attention to the sensations of the breathing body, first arranging the body to support the practice, feeling our feet supported by the floor, our sitting bones supported by the chair, the cushion, feeling ourselves hugged to Mother Earth by gravity, feeling the spine rise up from the pelvis, holding up and opening the chest to each in-breath, feeling the back of the head rising upward, releasing tension from the neck, allowing our shoulder blades to kind of melt down our back. And returning again and again to direct perception of the breathing, ever-changing experience of the body, the breathing body. Not trying to regulate the breath, not trying to do this right, just being with whatever arises in each moment. And when other thoughts and feelings take us somewhere else, just noticing with gentleness and humor that our mind has run off again and welcoming our awareness to return back to the breathing body.
to rise, we rise for Baruch She'amar on page, let me put my mic on. You're able to rise, we rise for Baruch She'amar on page 180. This is a call and response. You'll learn the words very quickly. Baruch she'amar v'haya ha'olam, Baruch hu, Baruch oseh v'reishit, u'baruch shemo, Baruch omer v'oseh, Baruch ozer u'mekayem, u'baruch shemo, Baruch merachem al haaretz, Baruch merachem al habriot, Baruch meshalem sachar tov l'reyav, Baruch hailawad v'kayam lanetzach, Baruch bodeh u'matzil, Baruch hu u'baruch shemo. With the songs of your servant David we praise you. With hymns and psalms we shall exalt and extol you. We glorify you and acclaim your sovereignty. You alone are the sustaining life of the universe. You are the sovereign whose great name is to be eternally glorified. Baruch atah Yah Melech Mehulal Batishbachot. Happy are they who sit in the house of the Lord. Page 190, Ashrei.
Ashrei, Ashrei, Yoshvei, Yoshvei, Beitecha. Oria Hallelujah. Oria Hallelujah. So you can take either melody. It's your choice. And I love that this is about sitting. In the meditation world, sit is another name for sit and meditate. And when we do, even when that noise comes on, that noise, that my mind does not like, that's a fantastic opportunity for a meditator, because we can actually watch the resistance. Where does it, if there is, there may not be, you may love that sound, that's okay. But you just watch the no and pushing and, how can I get out of here? And sometimes the mind just starts to wander because it doesn't want to be there. So just be with whatever comes, welcome it with kindness, with curiosity. And so, Ashrei, Ashrei, Yoshvei, Yoshvei, Beitecha. Oria Hallelujah. Oria Hallelujah. When we sit together, there's no end to praise. Ashrei, Ashrei, Yoshvei, Beitecha. Oria Hallelujah. Oria Hallelujah. Ashrei.
Page 194, Psalm 150. As you notice, there are 150 Psalms. We had a wonderful session with Sensei Norman Fisher a few weeks ago, who's done some marvelous translations of these Psalms. And what is the conclusion of these Psalms? The conclusion is that you can't do it with words. Oh, so many trees could have been saved. You can't do it with words. You got to do it with song and dance. Got to do it with embodying in the Psalms, embodying the sense of joy. Because ultimately, it is only through joy that we can overcome so much. Psalm 150. Our tune is a tune by Leonard Cohen, one of the great Jewish poets of the last 50 years.
Hallelujah, el bitkacho, hallelujah, birkia uzo, hallelujah, bigavorotav, hallelujah, karovu gudlo, hallelujah, beteka shofar, hallelujah, benever. Shabbat, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Nishmat Kol Chai is on page 196. The soul or breath of every living thing praises Havaya Eloheinu, praises the wordless eternal flow of the divine. The 13th century Rabbi Eliezer of Worms taught, happy are they who recite Nishmat Kol Chai every day, not just on Shabbos or festivals. And here are the rabbi's skillful 13th century meditation instructions for the chant. Every person who has the breath of life within her should concentrate on the words of the prayer with all of her might. Happy are they who concentrate on every word and recite with all their heart and strength, aloud, with melody. Wow. That's a lot of ancestors also, right? Taking those instructions. So sometimes it's so hard to understand ancestors because I grew up at this time where it was like such, macho individuals. And sometimes it just hits me that these words have been said over and over for hundreds of years and have brought us here together. Let's see.
You're able to rise. Page 218 as we conclude this section of the Sukkah de Zimra, and with the Chatzi Kaddish, which transitions us to the Shema and her blessings. Page 218, and you can join me. Shochen ad maharo begadosh shemo bechatov ranenu tzadikim bahaya la yesharim navat tehila befi yesharim titalal udivrei tzadikim titborach ובשולח חסידים תתרומם ובקרב קדושים תתקדש ובמחלות רביבות עמך בית ישראל ברינה יתפאר שמך מלכנו בכל דור ודור שכן חובת כל יצורים לפניך ההוויה אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו להודות להלל לשבח לפאר ולרומם להלל לברך ולהלל ולקלס על כל דברי שירות ותשבחות דוד בן ישי עבדך משיחך ישתבח שמך לא עד מלכנו האל המלך הגדול והקדוש בשמיים ובארץ כי לך נאה יא אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו שיר ושבחה, הלל וזמרה, עוז וממשלה, נצח גדולה גבורה, תהילה ותפארת, קדושה ומלכות, ברכות והודאות, מעתה ועד עולם, ברוך אתה היה, אל מלך גדול ותשבחות, אל ההודאות, אדון הנפלאות, הבוכה בשירי זמרה, מלך מלכי העולמים. יתגדע ויתקדש ברמה, ויעמד יברח חירותי וימליך מלכותי, וחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בהגלה בהגלה ובזמן קרים, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי
רבה מבורך,
לעולם יומי יומיה, יתברך יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה לעילה מכל בחטא ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן ויעלמה, ואמרו אמן.
From page 221, we turn to the next mystical page with no number. As we approach the next steps in the ladder of the service that bring us closer to the Shema, closer to our standing in the presence of Yud He Vav He during the Amidah, we take in and embody this instruction, Hareini mikabel alai. I hereby take upon myself the instruction of our Creator, you shall love your fellow as yourself. To treat each other with the respect and awe that we give to Yud He Vav He, for we know that this one life force that animates all living things is shining through the faces that we see around us. And so today, rather than walking around, we'll stand in our places, and as we sing, you can gaze upon the light shining from your neighbor's face, making eye contact if it's comfortable, or just gazing in awe and admiration of the beautiful little waveforms that rise in each of us as in this wonderful sea of living beings.
Mikabel alai mitzvat hazeh, v'yohavta l'reacha kamocha. Love your neighbor as yourself. Hareini mikabel alai mitzvat hazeh, v'yohavta l'reacha kamocha. Love your neighbor as yourself. If you could remain standing for the Baruch, the invitation to our morning tefillah is found on page 224.
And we're going to do it a little bit differently, different melody, a little bit of a call and response. Let's see. And so the first 3 lines that I'll chant, you'll repeat, and then we'll sing the last one together. And we'll do it a couple of times. We'll actually do it for each of the 4 worlds, right? So what I want you to think of as you're doing this is to look around and to invite each other into prayer, right? We invite each other into community, right? We're usually all facing that way. But we can say, okay, are you ready yet? Are you ready? Check it out. Hey, are you ready? You don't have to say that, but as we sing. Okay, so first, so you can dance it if you want. If you don't want it, you can just stay still. But here's the dance. Baruch Hu, dear one,
Dear one,
Shekhinah,
Shekhinah,
holy name.
holy name.
When I call together on the light of my soul, I come home. That was the first level, which is body and earth and form, that we become embodied and we have forms temporarily. Thank you for these forms. And the second one is in the level of the heart. So, Baruch Hu,
Baruch Hu,
dear one, Shekhinah, holy name. When I call on the light of my soul, I come home. And the third one is the realm of mental activity and the ability that we have to think, which we don't glorify that much in meditation, but it's very cool. We can think enough to know that it's not so great to think in meditation. So let's do one more for that world. Baruch Hu, dear one, Shekhinah, holy name.
holy name.
When I call on the light of my soul, I come home. And in the fourth realm, there's no words. It's atzilut, silence. There's nothing that, it's all being expressed now without words. So we'll do it in silence. We'll dance in silence. Ah, someone's joining us. Oh, we're calling on the light of our soul, and here it is.
Baruch atah ya Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or uvorech choshech oseh shalom shalom uvorech et hakol yotzer or uvorech choshech oseh shalom shalom uvorech et hakol. on Shabbat, we add a beautiful hymn on page 228. And imagine yourself floating in the cosmos, floating among all the celestial beings. And we'll talk about celestial beings in a little while, but right now, Baruch umvorach v'figom neshama gadlo v'tuvo malei olam da'at u'tvuna sovevim oto ha'ebzi v'fi saram v'na v'na u'chasker ha'koach u'gvuro natan bahem להיות מושלים בקרב תבל, ובלהיט תמזיק ובמבמבם. פאר וכבוד נוריד ושמו הצלה ורינה לזכר מלכותו קרא לשמש ויזרח אור ראה והתקין צורת הלבנה השבע נותנים לו כל צבא מרום התפארת וגדולה שרועפים ויופנים וחיות הכל היי ריי 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 היי ריי 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 היי ריי 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 היי ריי 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 היי ריי 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 היי ריי 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 ריי ריי. We get ourselves again in position, connecting with the earth, raising ourselves towards the sky, the heavens, and serving as a conduit between
You
the
don't
two.
put your mic on.
Oh,
Put your mic on.
Is that better? So get ourselves in a comfortable position again. Feet on the ground, connecting with the earth, the body erect, in a comfortable way, reaching towards the sky. As we are a conduit between what some people call heaven and others say heaven and earth. Come back to your breath as your mind wanders. Just come back to your core, to your nishima, your breath, to your nishama, your soul. able to rise, page 234. Just going to give a demonstration of what to do during the Kiddushah, which is said during the Amidah. Just go towards the bottom of the page. There's transliteration there. But if you want, just put your books down. It's not very hard. So according to the visions of Isaiah and other prophets, the Malachim, the messengers, I know my teacher, Reb Zalman Lo B'Shalom, said maybe the four-letter name is really the four strands of DNA, which explains that it can never be destroyed. It's always passed on. And then they have things coming out of it called RNA, messengers. And those are what Malachim are. They're messengers. By the way, the word angel means also the same thing. But when you say angel, most people conjure up a little Christmas tree decoration or something. But we're talking about Malachim, and they only have one leg. So you put your feet together like they're one leg, and during the Kiddushah, you'll notice that people raise themselves on their toes 3 times. So that's emulating hovering, okay? So it's hard to do with holding this mic. I'll try. So for the first Kadosh, you raise your hands like this. And you get on your toes. The second Kadosh, get on your toes and go a little higher. And the third, get a little higher. Stretch a little bit. It's good for you. Good for you. Stretch a little bit. And then, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot, Milo Kol Haaretz Kevodo. So we're saying Kadosh, Kadosh, Milo, the entire universe is filled with you. Shemo, Kol Shemo. So let's try that. It's called the Kedusha, the Yeshiva, the sitting Kedusha, but we're standing to practice. So let's try it again. We raise ourselves up and raise our hands. Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot, Melo Kol Haaretz Kevodo. One more time. Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot, Melo Kol Haaretz Kevodo. When we do the Kedusha in a little while, you'll have something to do, keep you busy. Okay, you may be seated. We continue on with the final blessing of light, which is found...
No, love. Doesn't love come first?
No,
No?
light comes first. Right, we said Ma'orod and Ahavarot.
Oh, yes, that's right.
That's right, okay.
Got it.
So we're found on page 236. The last lines. Or Chadash Al Zion Ta'ir V'nizkeh kulanu Hera Leoro V'nizkeh kulanu Mehera Leoro Yadadai la li la la Yadadai hi la la Yadadai hi la 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 hi la 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 Yadadai la li la la Yadadai la 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 Yadadai hi la 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 hi la 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 Baruch atah Yotzer hamiorot. We'll sit quietly for a moment or two.
Ahava Rabba Avtanu, page 7 if you want to follow along. With an abundant, boundless love, deep is your love, a great life-sustaining love that flows through us and around us, ever present. With a great love you have loved us, and in love you have called us, and in love we respond. With love we were created, with love we came into your world. The Torah and mitzvot are expressions of your boundless love for us. With love and gratitude, we uphold all the wisdom and compassion that the Torah reveals to us, so that we may fulfill its teachings in love and moral action, so that we may live meaningful lives harmoniously in the world. As we chant these 3 words, Ahava Rabba Avtanu, may our hearts feel the ever-expansive presence of divine love embracing us. May our hearts open and embrace just being in this very unique moment in time. May our hearts gladly receive God's love for us and empower us to love others and ourselves with deep compassion and without judgment.
Thank you, Reggie. Just want to note that this melody comes from a great Rebbe, Thich Nhat Hanh. And I heard it on New Year's Eve when I was visiting Plum Village in France, in his monastery where my daughter was hanging out. So we were there together. And this is a song that his monks and nuns sing to the word Avalokiteshvaraya, which is the goddess of compassion. And I figure, like, where are the words in our text that are like that? And I said, oh, this is it. Ahava Rabbah Ahavtanu, the great love you have loved us. Ahava Rabbah Ahavtanu. Ahava Rabbah Ahavtanu. Ahava
four corners of our tzitziot.
So as Red Moshe just said, as we gather the four corners of our talit, symbolizing the four corners of the earth and all the disparate parts of ourselves, we prepare to become one with God, the divine, in saying the Shema. But before we do this, I'd like to recite a poem that I found, which is by Abraham Leader, the uncle of Evan. And this is a wonderful poem. May the wonder within never fade, the wonder of creation. May awe of its holiness never disappear from our hearts. May our spirit never tire of the struggle to establish justice, peace, healing, wherever we might wander, when we lie down, when we rise, and when we are on our way. You are blessed, Yud-He Vav-He. You lovingly give us life.
The Shema, as you know, is not a prayer. It's a kriyah. It's a reading. You have people say, what's the most important prayer? It's not a prayer. Oh, microphone. Okay, that's a good idea. Thank you. No, it's all right. I just, because I have a handheld. So the Shema, as many of you know, is not a prayer. It's not beseeching anything. It's a kriyah. It's a reading. It's an attention grabber. That's why we're supposed to say, Shema! Listen! It's very hard for people to listen. Listen! It's a great geschrei, as they say. A great geschrei. Listening. And of course, listening means possibly did different things for people. It's not the same as hearing. When we listen, it's a little bit more than that. And it might mean do this. It could be commanding as well when we say, listen to me, right? Both of those connotations are there. So however you take it, we take a full breath for each word. And before we do it together, can you turn to your neighbor and ask their name if you don't know it and say, Shema Reggie.
Shema Moshe.
Shema, Bobby.
Wait. Shema Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Shema, Sharon.
Shema.
Shema Sheila.
Shema, Reggie.
Shema Sheila.
Moshe.
Shema
Adonai
Moshe.
Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Amen.
Because ultimately, the way we listen to something that's impossible to hear, in a way, because, God has no larynx. I don't know if you know that. A lot of people, when they say, God spoke, right? Hi, this is God. That's not the way it works. It would be easier if it worked that way, and they don't put you into a mental institution. It'd be much easier. But it's really saying it basically that we have to basically contemplate the achdut, the unity of all things, the interconnection of all things. And as you know, I think everybody here has that sensitivity already, but nothing is disconnected. Nothing. Reverberations of actions, they reverberate into the world, and we basically benefit from them occasionally and sometimes do not. So when we say the Shema, we do it with that kavanah, the kavanah of approaching the consciousness of oneness, the consciousness of oneness. Page 242. And there's transliteration on the page for those who don't read Hebrew. Shema Yisrael Havaya Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shame kavod b'chol. Let's do it together. V'yohavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol miyodecha v'hayu hadvarim o'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shiratam levanecha v'dibarta bam בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך היו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. We join our breath with all living things. I am Yah, who guards you. I've taken you out of your narrowness, Eretz Mitzrayim, to be for you an Elohim. I, Yah, who guards you. Adonai Elohechem. We rise for the Amidah, which is found on page 255. And remember, in the Kedusha, you know, I have some movements to do. Try not to poke out the eyes of people next to you. Take 3 steps back. Adonai tzvatai tiftach. And 3 steps forward. Ufi yagiti latecha. We bend the knee at the beginning and the end of the first blessing. Baruch atah ya Eloheinu v'lei avoteinu Elohei Abraham v'Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah v'Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Adonai El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Konei Hakol v'Zocher Chasdei Avot u'Mevi Goel Livnei v'Neihem Leman Shebo B'Yava Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Mageh. We bend the knee. Baruch atah Adonai Magen Abraham v'Yezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechayim Eti Matarav Lehoshia Ma'ashiva Ruach u'Morida Gashem Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed Mechayim Meitim Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim Verofech Oholim ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדומה לך ממית ומחיי ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמנת לחיות מתים. ברוך אתה היה מחיי המתים. Page 256. וקדש שמך בעולם, וגם שמקדישים אותו בשמי ברום, ככתוב ליד תביח וקורא זה אל זה, ויאמר
קדוש, קדוש,
אדוני צבאות,
מלוא כל הארץ
כבודו. עוש מקודש גדול עדי וחזק, משמיעים קול, מטסים למצרפים למותה, ברוך יומנו, ברוך כבוד, היה במקומו. במקומך מלכנו תופיע ותמחלנו, כי מחכים אנחנו לך. מתי תמלוך בציון בקרב ימינו לא תשכון, תתגדל ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך. לדור ודור נצח נצחים, ועינינו תראינה מלכותך כדבור עמום ובשירי עוזך, על ידי דוד משיח צדקך, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים בשעתך נקדיש ושבח אלוהינו פעולי מושל ובית כי אל מלך, גדול וקדוש אתה, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. We continue silently to the end of the Amidah, using the words of our Siddur, the words of your heart. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable unto you, Yah. Yehu liratzon, imre fi vehegyon libi, lefanecha Yah, tzuri v'goali, ose shalom. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, Vimru Omeid, Titkabel Siloton, Uvotechon Dechol Yisrael, Kodem Avuondi Vishmaya, Vimru Omeid, Eshlom Rabba Min Shemaya, V'chaim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'imru, Ve'imru, Amen. Ose Shalom Bimromav, Hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Hai-rai-ri, hai-rai-rai, hai-rai-rai-rai-rai-rai-rai, hai-rai-rai, hai-rai-rai, 314. If you have an honor of opening the ark, it could be page 312.
We're studying.
312. If you have an honor of opening the ark, please come forward. And if not, don't come forward. Okay. The bottom of page 313. ויהי בצום אהרון ויאמר משה קומה אדינוי ויפוצו מבכו וינוצו משנאיך מפניך כי מציון תצא תורה כי מציון תצא תורה ודבר אדוני מירושלים ברוך שנתן תורה תורה ברוך שנתן תורה תורה לעמו ישראל בקדושתו. Responses are found on page 320. Shema Yisrael, Ya Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Israel,
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonai Shemo.
Gad Elul Adonai Oneromemo Shemo Yachdav. Our Torah service this morning will be a little bit different, as the whole service I think has been, but I think you'll really get a lot out of it. You may be seated. You may be seated.
So, as we approach Passover and observe today Shabbat Hagadol, we're invited by this ancient text to explore the meaning of liberation in our lives today, in this very moment. How timely. The story of Passover reminds us that the transition to freedom can be scary and confusing. As the story says, the first thing that the children of Israel experienced when they left Mitzrayim was fear. They were too afraid to take that first step into the Red Sea. And even after their miraculous crossing of the sea, all sorts of complaining and grumbling followed. Sometimes the suffering that's so familiar is more comfortable than the freedom that's scary and unknown. So, as we go through our various transitions with the lifting and lowering of pandemic restrictions, we may feel confused as we have to make our own choices about when and where to wear masks, to gather with each other. So in the context of this season of liberation, we turn to today's Parsha, Mitzorah, where we find instructions for ritual purification of one who is ready to return to community after being released from confinement and after being officially proclaimed purified and ready to rejoin the community by the Kohen, the priest. Now, at a time when we've all become so contagion conscious, we have to remember that this ritual of purification for Za'arat was not about hygiene and not about the control of contagious disease. Za'arat has unfortunately been mistranslated as leprosy. However, the neurologic disease of leprosy has nothing to do with these symptoms that are described, and these symptoms describe a whole grab bag of skin lesions, eczema, psoriasis, vitiligo, maybe impetigo, cellulitis. So the passage does not reflect prescient medical wisdom of the ancients, nor do we need to use the words pure and impure for tahor and tameh. Reb Moshe and Rav Claudia often remind us that tameh and tahor are better understood as ready or not ready to participate in community. So as we discover, the freedom from COVID restrictions that we all longed for plunges us into a sea of endless choices. Should I wear a mask at services but not at Kiddush? And if I wear a mask somewhere and I'm the only one wearing a mask, what should I do? And so after any kind of confinement, there's a lot of uncertainty about whether one is ready to fully rejoin. And in this parsha, we see how comfort is provided by a religious ritual and complete faith in the certainty of the Kohanim's judgments, even if it is not, from a medical or scientific point of view, safe and trustworthy advice. In this passage, we learn that the Kohen comes, looks at the healing lesion, can declare it healed, and with the purification ritual, the afflicted one is declared ready to fully rejoin the community and welcomed back fully into community life, and no one can say after that ritual, you don't belong here. In contrast, many people today complain about the uncertainty and the changing messages we get from scientists and public health officials about COVID. Scientists, unlike the Kohanim, interpret observations according to formulas and patterns that have been tested and proven useful, not according to rules in the ancient scriptures. And even if the scientists are correct about today, viruses change, populations change, conditions change, and what seemed true today may be different tomorrow. And we're often uncomfortable with this uncertainty. It could be more comfortable to have a Kohen declare with certainty when each of us is ready to return to community. And we may long for Dr. Fauci to be a high priest. However, such declarations would not be safe. And today, we genuinely want the benefits of science, but with those benefits come the discomfort of uncertainty. Now, meditation, fortunately, is a practice that trains us to deal with uncertainty, with the ever-changing nature of life circumstances. And yet, fortunately, we can still use ritual to provide comfort. So, for this Aliyah, I invite anyone who would like to receive a blessing for any type of transition, including tolerating the uncertainty of transitions, whether it's rejoining community more fully, starting a new endeavor, releasing an old endeavor, coming to contemplative Shabbat services, recovering from illness. Please
Stand at your place.
come to
Okay, we invite you
receive
up.
a blessing up here. Yeah. Oh, stand. Oh, okay, sorry. Stand in your seat. Stand at your seat. Okay.
Stand on page. Okay. Page 660.
Yeah. Baruch hu et et Adonai Hamvorah. Baruch Adonai Hamvorah Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu im kol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah. Vayedaber Adonai el Moshe lemor. Zot Tihyeh Torah HaMitzorah B'yom Torato Vehuva El HaKohen. This is to be the instruction for the one who was afflicted. On the day he is to be purified, he will be brought to the Kohen. V'yatsa HaKohen el michutz lamachaneh, v'ra'a HaKohen v'hinei nirpa nega hatzarat min hatzarua. The priest will go outside from the camp to look at the afflicted one, and here the lesion of the afflicted one has healed. The Tziva HaKohen, and the Kohen will give the instruction to take for the one to be purified 2 birds alive and pure, the wood of cedar, the scarlet of worm, and a branch of hyssop. V'tziva HaKohen v'lakach l'mitaher, shtei tziporim hayot tehorot, v'etz erez ushni tolat v'ezot. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'hayei olam nata b'tohenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen. And actually, you can stay standing for a special blessing. May this morning's practice of silence, chant, and ritual be of benefit to you as you go through this time of transition. May it help you to tolerate the uncertainty that is part of living and part of every transition. And may it remind you that you do not have to go through this transition alone, but that we are here with you. And may it serve you to increase your experience of inner freedom, to feel, to know, to see, and to be present with whatever is unfolding in this moment. Amen.
Those who are in need of healing, who would like to acknowledge others that they are supporting in their healing, please rise and receive. Did you leave the yard in there? Get to that place. Anybody who wants to put it in the chat, we'll hear from you as well. Mishaberach Avotenu. You may put names of those who are ill or who you are supporting in their illness in the chat as well. Mishaberach Avotenu Av Yaakov Sorif Gorocha V'Layo Hu Yevorech V'Yirapeh Et HaCholim. רפא את החולים ישלח להם מהר הרפואת הנפש והגוף בתוך שאר חולי ישראל. שבת היא בלצעוק ורפואה קרוב לבוא. השתה בגלה בזמן קריב ונאמר אמן. May God bless their ancestors, Abraham, Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. Bless the sick for whom we pray. And may the Holy One bestow healing of body and spirit upon them and all the sick in our community throughout the house of Israel and throughout the world. Baruch atah Rofei Cholim. You may be seated.
So can you hear me? Okay. Good morning, everybody. So glad you could be with us on this Shabbat HaGadol. So as Bobby so beautifully explained the ritual, I'm going to actually overlap a little bit with her. So the verses in Parasha Metzorah that I'll chant in a few minutes depict a purification ritual for leprosy that includes one dead bird and one live bird. At the end of the ritual, the live bird is freed into the open country, symbolizing the freedom from leprosy that the cured person is now experiencing. So after an allotted period of time, this cured person is allowed back into the community. This marks a new beginning, a rebirth from illness, and a liberation from both isolation and the sin of speaking badly about others. So I'm going to take a giant leap here and talk about rebirth, a new beginning, and liberation in our daily lives as it relates to our contemplative practice, in which we cultivate being present in the moment, being in the body, noticing with compassion what arises in our thoughts, our feelings, physical sensations, and then gently letting go of these and returning to the breath, to this aliveness, to this spark of divinity inside of us, which is a liberation from attaching to and getting lost in the mind's continuous chatter, worries, endless to-do lists, fabricated stories, inner critics. These are our Mitzrayim. To be free in this moment, by moment experience, to be free is the moment-by-moment experience of not being run by one's own reactive mechanisms. These are moments of freedom, liberation, healing, of being renewed and rebirthed. Thich Nhat Hanh, of blessed memory, says, "Everyone walks on the earth, but there are those who walk like slaves, with no freedom at all. They are sucked in by the future or by the past. They are not capable of dwelling in the here and now where life is available. If we get caught up in our worries, our despair, our regrets about the past, our fears of the future, in our everyday lives, we are not free people." Thich Nhat Hanh goes on to say, "For me, to be alive is a miracle. It is the greatest of all miracles. To feel that you are alive and are breathing in is to perform a miracle. Feeling that you are alive and taking a step is a miracle." The Israelites took a step that was sort of a miracle when they freed themselves from the boundaries of fear and took the first step on the road to freedom before the Exodus. They became partners with the divine when they decided to follow God's commandment about acquiring a lamb. The Hatam Sofer, who was one of the leading Orthodox rabbis of European Jewry in the first half of the 19th century, writes, "On this day, Shabbat HaGadol, the Jewish people fully returned, tshuva, to their commitment and faith in God." Each Pesach is a new opportunity for growth and liberation, for healing and purification, for giving ourselves permission to shed some of the boundaries we impose on ourselves and others. As we read the Haggadah, we are grateful to the divine for giving us the bodily and spiritual resources needed so that we are empowered to take action, to join in the effort to help others, wherever they may be, to become free of their Mitzrayim. This is just one of the many ways we partner with the divine. So I'd like to invite people to stand in their seats for this Aliyah. If you desire to be healed and free from your own Mitzrayim, whatever that may be, to be freed from your self-imposed boundaries or the boundaries that others impose on you, or you would like to deepen your relationship with the divine, or you want to strengthen your contemplative practice and live more in the present moment, or you wish to be more aware of your inner aliveness, your interconnectedness, or you wish to help others be free from oppression and slavery, please stand.
And we're on page 660, chapter 14, verse 5.
Okay. Yeah. Baruch hu et Adonai hamvarach. Baruch Adonai barach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bacha banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah. V'tzivah hakohen v'shachat et hatzipor ha'echad. Bobby, can you hold this? Oh, sorry. I'm going to start again. V'tzivah hakohen v'shachat et hatzipor ha'echad el kalil cheres al mayim chayim et hatzipor hachaya yikach otach ve'et es ha'eres v'et sheni hatola'at v'et ha'ezov v'ticha otah ve'et hatzipor hachaya v'tam hatzipor hashchukta ahamayim hachayim v'hizah mintaher min hatzarat sheva pa'amim v'tiharo v'shilah et hatzipor hachaya abnei hasadeh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu torat emet v'ye'olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah. And I'd like to give a blessing to everybody who stood up for this Aliyah. May your practice support moments of oneness, presence, loving kindness, and gratitude. May you have more moments in the present and experience this aliveness, the divine, the miraculous embrace of God's love surrounding you, and your interconnectedness to others and nature. May your behaviors bring holiness into the world. May you be freed from your Mitzrayim and help others in the world to do the same. May you be blessed with all these possibilities. Amen.
Those who are commemorating a Yortzeit this week, please rise. אל מורה רחמים, שולחים ומרומים, אמצי מנוחה נכונה תחת השכינה. במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הקיא מצילים את נשמות. The names of those?
Sandy Block.
וכל הילו שאנחנו מזכירים היום לברכה נבל רחמים, מסתירם בסתק ונופך לעולמים, וצרור בצורכיים בנשמותיהם, וינוחו על משכבותם בשלום, ונאמר, Merciful God who dwells on high in our hearts, grant perfect peace to the souls who are dearly beloved who have gone to their eternal rest. Shelter them your divine presence among the holy and pure, whose radiance is like the brightness of the firmament. May their memories inspire us to live justly and kindly. May their souls be at peace. May we be bound up in the bond of life eternal, and let us say, Amen.
Amen.
You may be seated.
But Moshe, you help me find it. Yeah, it's verse 31.
I know, it's pretty easy. It's before the next one. Hold up, please. Just have to get to the next march. I'll be right before that. Zachary Moses. Yeah.
I think no, that's not.
What's your first word?
The Hazartan.
You got it.
So this week's Parsha asks us to pay close attention. Oh, am I on?
Here. I turned it off here. You can
Which
see.
one? This one. Okay. I'll turn that off because it's off now. So this week's Torah asks us to pay close attention to the body. And that's actually our basic meditation instruction, that the body and the breath have this wisdom that they know they're always connected to everything, whereas the mind, doesn't buy it usually. And so it's such a, it's almost like this luxurious gift that we have this body to come back to over and over. And as soon as the mind connects with it, the mind can't really always understand it, but in that moment, it's totally present with everything and connected to everything. So we pay kind and curious attention to the body. This is not the imagined body, the one when we look in the mirror, what we think it looks, and not the body that gets shamed by companies that make multi-billion dollars for us to improve our bodies and look somehow differently or better. And it's not the habitual stories that we tell about our body. Instead, we bring compassion to a body that is a divine miracle. And the compassion is needed the older you get. The more compassion you get to develop, yeah. So the body is the seat of wisdom. And it knows that it's not only a separate self, right? It knows that it's connected to everything, that there's this microcosmic universe inside of us and a macrocosmic universe outside of us that creates us, really, that is part of this divine unfolding of creation. So the lines that I will lane in Torah have difficult stories about the body. And the stories are concerned often with these binary states of purity or impurity, when in fact those two exist on a spectrum. And as Bobby and Reggie pointed out, there's not ready and ready. There's different ways to interpret those so-called binary states. tahor has some kind of connotation of completeness or wholeness. When must we separate and how do we return? Very important questions for us right now, right? The Torah just seems to know what we're going through at any given moment. So with the Torah speaking to us now as we emerge from 2 years of enforced isolation to protect each other. And it says, if you notice, the lines that I'll read says, if you notice emissions of semen or menstrual blood, don't come into the temple on pain of death. But that temple is a mishkan, and mishkan is related to the root shekhinah, or indwelling presence. And so that even though it says bitocham is usually translated as among us or among them, it's really within us. So the indwelling presence of God is somehow, when are we connected to that? And if we lose connection to that, we do go around kind of like automatons, right? Guided by our habitual ways of thinking. So the Torah asks us, I think, to go inside and say, when does disconnect feel like dying? And when do we live? How do we live when loved ones have actually died? And the Torah asks us to notice in some way what's broken, what's missing, and in our practice, our meditation practice, we notice and feel into brokenness, and that's the beginning of healing, of return to life. So this aliyah is for you if you are ready to deepen intimacy in this divine flow of life within you and around you. And this aliyah is for you if you're not ready. You won the jackpot today. But want to honor being not ready. I mean, some of the most profound moments in my meditation are when the opposite is happening that I want to have happen. And if I can remember to bow to it, to honor it, and say, yes, you're welcome also. Sometimes it feels like I'm inviting eons of ancestors to honor their struggles as well. So this aliyah is for honoring separation and disconnect and for ever becoming whole. So please rise in your place if you'd like to be part of this.
Yes. This is page 669, verse 31 at the bottom of the page.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvarach. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah ya noten ha'Torah. Somebody put their hand up. That's good. Oops. Is that okay? V'hizartem et b'nei Yisrael mitumatam v'lo yamutu mitumatam itam am et mishkani asher b'tocham zot Torah hazeh ba'asher tetzeh mimenu shichvat zerah l'tamava v'hadavar binnata v'hazav etzavo l'zachar v'lankeva. V'zachar v'lankeva. No?
Yeah.
Ul ish asher yishkav im temeah. Baruch atah ya Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'haye olam nata b'tochenu, baruch atah noten haTorah. And so may you be blessed with times of connection when there's a wordless, undefinable, mysterious feeling of being one with everything. And may you herald the times that you don't feel connected as a time to cultivate the quality of compassion, and as Bobby likes to say, humor. Sometimes that's appropriate. So that you can flow through these periods of connection and disconnect in a way that enrich your soul, and by doing that, enrich all of us. And may you be blessed with peace and with the ability to notice everything and come home to the body.
Amen. Please rise as the Torah is lifted to time. Let's sit a little in silence before we hear more words. We heard a lot of words. Just sit. I think you're a good, comfortable position. Take a breath or two to cleanse. Just a few words about Shabbat HaGadol. It always is the Shabbat, the Great Shabbat. We'll explain why that is called the Great Shabbat. It's always before Passover. Traditionally, in the traditional community, there was a time Remember, congregations didn't have individual rabbis. There were rabbis for the community, either Hasidic rebbes or rebbeim, etc. And so you didn't have a sermon every week necessarily. So there were 2 times a year when a sermon was offered, and that was on Shabbat Shuvah, the Shabbat between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and on Shabbat Hagadol right before Passover. And these sermons took almost all day. And I will keep you here only till 4:30, so we have a little bit of light. And they said if anyone understood the sermon, they probably would fire the rabbi because no one's supposed to understand it. And on Shabbos HaGadol, they dealt with which is what we need to do, because Pesach is coming Friday night, and Shabbat will be day 1. So it gives you that all with the laws of Chametz and Pesach, and giving people the last chance to do what they had to do. And it's also called Shabbat HaGadol because we read a Haftarah. If you want to take a look at it, it's in our Chumashim at 1296 is the page. And it's the words of Malachi in English, Malachi, who is the last of the prophets. The book of the prophets ends with this Haftarah. And then the next section of Tanakh, which is Ketuvim, writing, Psalms, Proverbs, all of that stuff, the Megillot, etc. So what's Malachi saying? Malachi is in a bit of a rant here. It's a rant. Not uncommon for prophets. They love to rant. And he basically talks about the fact that most people are off the path, and they have to get on the path. And all the people who get on the path shall be happy, and those who are not will somehow suffer. That's not necessarily true, but it's a warning. It's a warning. And he's against the arrogant. He's against those who commit evil, those who have basically who talk to one another in a disrespectful way. And he goes on and on and on. And then he says, on the day that I am preparing, the Lord of hosts, they shall be my treasured possession. They would all come back. I will be tender toward them as a man is tender toward a son who ministers to him. And you shall come to see the difference between the righteous and the wicked, between him who served God and him who has not served God. For lo, that day is at hand, burning like an oven. All the arrogant and all the doers of evil shall be straw. And the day that is coming, said the Lord of hosts, shall burn them to ashes, and leave them neither stock nor boughs. But for you who revere my name, a son of victory shall rise, to bring healing. You shall go forth and stamp like stall-fed calves, and you shall trample the wicked to a pulp, for they shall be dust beneath your feet, and on that day I am preparing, said the Lord of hosts. And here's one of the, coming up to why it's called Shabbat HaGadol. Zichru, be mindful of the teaching of my servant Moshe, whom I charged at Chorev with laws and rules for all people. Lo, hinei anochi sholeach lachem et Eliyahu hanavi lifnei bo yom ha'adonai hagadol v'hanora. Lo, I am sending the prophet Elijah to you before the coming of this awesome, fearful day of the Lord. Hayom gadol v'nora. He shall, and this is probably the wonderful ending for prophets, if you have to end it at all. It's a little bit of a downer, but you'll hear it. He says, when Elijah comes, he shall reconcile parents with children and children with their parents, so that when I come, I do not strike the whole land with utter destruction. And they didn't want to end on a downer, so they say again, V'hine anochi sholeach lechem et Eliyahu navi, and here I send the prophet Elijah before you on this awesome, on this fearful Yom HaGadol v'Hanora. This is why Elijah comes to the Seder. Not to drink the wine, all that's. Elijah comes to hear, is there a conversation going on between generations? It's very hard. The generation gap is a tough one. Every generation has, in some way, said, oi, the next generation's not what it should be. But Pesach gives an opportunity, and this is really hard because a lot of families don't talk about really important things. I'm sorry. They find a lot of idle chatter, et cetera, and it's very nice. And say, when do we eat? Right? So that's it. But if you really take advantage of the fact that you might have more than one generation of the table, it's important for the people of the older generation to really, really make it clear to their children, grandchildren, friends who are young, and say, you know what, life's tough and I got through it, you'll get it through as well. You'll get through life as well. I got through a lot of tough things and you will get through. This is what you have to say to young people who encounter, and many of them will encounter at a certain age the first time they're challenged, when they leave the parental abode. They go to college, wherever they go, and they say, and all of a sudden they have to face things on their own, and they don't think they can do it often. They get very despondent. We have a lot of horrible stories of young people taking their lives. Taking their lives. Never been challenged before. Couldn't go to mommy and daddy to make it good. In spite of the fact that mommy and daddies like to live with their kids now for a long, long time, and the kids live with their parents. So this is really, really the challenge we have, of being able to tell the story. We have to tell the story. What's the story? It's not only in the book. The book is fine. It's a Haggadah, a telling. You want to tell, oh, we left Egypt and we hope that freedom will traverse the entire world. Wonderful, great. Very few people can be against freedom. It's an easy, low bar. It's a pretty low bar. Like, I'm against anti-Semitism. Good, I'm not your anti. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem, you're against it. Terrific. It's a low bar. The higher bar is to say, as we've been hearing all through our Torah reading and our commentaries by our wonderful teachers, is how did I get through my Mitzrayim? Because children don't necessarily believe that parents have had challenges. But all of us had. For some it's health. For some it's a terrible situation at work. For some it's having, if you will, an ongoing feud with somebody. Whatever it is, if you can somehow hear each other at the table, that's what Elijah's checking. That will prevent utter destruction. And it's hard. I know it's hard. Because kids don't always want to listen to stories of their parents. Oh, that story again? Yes, that story again. Because the Haggadah story is that story again. Yes. And sometimes you have to hear a story a lot of times before it sinks in. And then they get older, and guess what? They repeat the story to their kids, God willing. That's how it works. So when this Seder happens, take advantage. Be simchadik and sing and dance and do everything you have to do to make it a wonderful yontif, and eat good food and talk about the personal lives of each person there. Offer them an opportunity. Okay, we'll talk about the Red Sox at another time. We'll talk about all of this stuff that is a common, if you will, conversation of people. But it's an uncommon time, the Seder. It's an uncommon time. It's a day that we really, really say, you know, if we get through this, we can get through a lot more. And this is what we have to deal with today. We're getting through a lot of stuff, whether it's the rise of anti-Semitism, whether it's the rise of fascism. There's a lot of stuff out there. And some people just get despondent and they look away from it. That's the way we normally deal with stuff that we don't like, is we get distracted. We say, I can't look at another story about what's going on in the Ukraine because it's not getting better. You're right. But are we permitted to turn away? That's the question. Al tamod al dam re'echa. Don't stand by when the blood of your kinsmen or the blood of other people is being spilled. Don't stand by. So I hope all of us will have a Zisen Pesach, a sweet Passover. I hope we'll all have the opportunity to be with friends, to be with family. I hope all of us will take advantage of the commandment. And what is the commandment? The commandment is, this is it. Chayav Adam lerot et atzmo ki'ilu hu yatsa mitzrayim. Every person, not Adam, doesn't say man, doesn't say woman, every person should feel that he or she has been redeemed from their narrow place. The Rambam, we got to mention the Rambam every week. I think it's a law. It's in my contract. I have to remember. This Rambam, in his version of the Haggadah, in his Yad Chazakah, his Mishnah Torah, he says, Kol Adam chayav leharot et atzmo. Interesting. Not lirot, not to see himself, but to exhibit that in their lives. to exhibit. It's not to be kept internally. Exhibit the possibility of freedom in your life. Because that's the best way you teach. You don't teach by only words, you teach by example. So I wish us all the capacity to listen to each other. I wish we have the capacity to also feel like we can show our sense of freedom, that we don't have to be enslaved to ideology, enslaved to, if you will, all the things that are holding us apart in this country, ideas that may or may not be true, whatever it is. I hope that we overcome that. And then Elijah, the prophet, will come on this awesome, fearful day, and we will we'll avoid the destruction of all things. We return the Torah to the Ark, if you're able to rise, on page 300 in our Sigurim. יהללו את שם אדוני כי נשגב שמו לבדו הודו על ארץ ושמיים ויורם קרן לימו תהילה לכל חסידיו לבני ישראל עם קרובו Hallelujah, hallelujah. The middle of page 346. עץ חיים היא למחזיקים בה ותומיה מאושר דרכיה דרכי נועם בכל נתיבותיה שלום השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה חדש חדש יומנו חדש יומנו כקדם. Let's sit silently before we conclude our service. We're practically on time, believe it or not, and we'll get you all down to Kiddush. Don't worry.
Are we going to...
Mike.
How about now? Yes, okay. So as we transition ourselves from the Torah service to Musaf, and we're sitting quietly, and we're allowing our breath to be within its own natural rhythm, and being aware of our bodies, and welcoming with kindness whatever arises, and love, whether it's thoughts, emotions, physical sensations, and then just letting it go and coming back to your natural rhythm of breathing. Our hearts open by allowing what is present to arise. Our armor shatters and breaks open our hearts. Our hearts expand. The expansion enables us to accept what's happening at this very moment, empowers us to love others and ourselves. So I invite you to continue with the silence as we prepare for a meditation, which is about sending well wishes to others and to ourselves. So this is a heart-opening mindfulness practice, a loving kindness meditation practice that directs well wishes toward other people with no expectations of anything in return, even though there are great benefits that practitioners experience, one being the cultivation of loving kindness. So today we're going to do this guided meditation in 4 stages. And we will do it, meaning we'll do it 4 times. And we'll use these phrases. May you be safe. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. And if you practice this at home, you may want to use your own phrases. So in this meditation, we place our attention on the words rather than the breath, sort of like a mantra. Thoughts and feelings and bodily sensations may arise just as they do in our regular meditations. And we just notice and then gently come back to the phrase. And you don't have to begin at the beginning of the phrases. You could just begin from where your attention wandered. We're going to say these phrases slowly and pause in between each one. And see if you could feel these phrases actually emanate from your heart, that space that holds loving kindness, so that you could connect with the intention of each of these phrases. So make yourself comfortable in your chair, taking in a deep breath, closing your eyes if you wish. Find a comfortable position. Relax the body. Gently elongate the spine and the neck so that your posture supports the meditation. And the first one will do this meditation directed to a beloved person in our lives, because sometimes it's difficult to start with ourselves. So in your mind's eye, think of someone you love deeply, a benefactor, a family member, a friend, a mentor, and lovingly send that person these 4 wishes. May you be safe. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. And we'll say those 4 phases twice for this one person. May you be safe. May you be well. May you be happy. And may you be peaceful. And now we'll say these loving wishes to ourselves. because it's hard for some of us to think, because this is hard for some of us to do. We could think of a person that, you could think of a person that loves you. Imagine that person looking at you, and imagine that person reciting these phrases to you, sending heartfelt wishes so that you feel embraced by their love, as if they were saying it to you, or if you feel comfortable, you could say it to yourself. May I be safe. May I be healthy and strong. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. So whichever one you prefer, either you think of a loving person saying this to you, being embraced by their love, or saying it to yourself. And again, repeating these twice. And now I'll give you a choice. You can either think of someone that you're neutral about, or someone that is really difficult in your life, because we don't have time to do both. So choose either a person neutral or difficult and send this person wishes. May you be safe. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. And for the last stage, we're going to send these loving kindness wishes in a very expansive way. We're going to begin with sending these to each other, to our TBZ community, then out to the neighborhoods and cities, and throughout the country, and then to all beings in the world. The world really needs this now, so allow your heart to expand and send out as much love as you can with these words. There's so many people in so many places that need these wishes. So again, may you be safe, may you be well, may you be happy, may you be peaceful. Really big, way out there, expand it. Now let's take another moment just to sit in silence as we close this meditation. You can notice your body, your thoughts, your emotions as this comes to a close, welcoming everything that arises with compassion and love.
If you're able to rise, you rise for Aleinu, which is found on page 410. עלינו לשבח לדורון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו מגוי ארצות, ולא שמנו משפחות אדמה, שלא שם חלקנו עמהם, וגורלנו עם כל העולם, כי אנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. כך כתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד. ושמו seated. This coming week we commemorate the yahrzeit of Benjamin Agronic, Frederick Altman, Sylvia Back, Gary Bello, Odette Bettery, David Breakstone, Shirley Freed, Carol Gibbs, Ida Glott, Joseph Goldstein, Anna Hamburg, Shirley Esther Brody Jacobs, Arlene Zeitz Clapper, Belle Greenberg Klatsko, Gerald Kleinman, Elaine Kopans, Jerry Lehner, Mark David Plavnik, David Reich, Herman Reich, Edward Rothstein, Herman Schwartz, James Schulman, Elaine Spiegel, Philip Tanzer, Ilya Lapkin, Yaakov Sokol, and Lisa Greenberg. Anyone else who has a yahrzeit? Thank you. If you are in mourning or have a yahrzeit, the mourners' college is found on page 410. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah. V'yalma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chaye chod u'v'yomei chod u'v'chaye d'chol bet Yisrael ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevorach li'olam olmei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpo'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudsha brichu. לעילם מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמה ויאמרו, יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום, עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ויאמרו Amen. Am I giving announcements? Or is there someone here to give announcements? Okay. Okay, so friends, tomorrow there's a important community walk for peace at 10 a.m. at Jamaica Pond. It's for the Louis D. Brown Peace Institute. They're trying to raise money as well to help survivors of murder and gun violence in the greater Boston area. They're trying to raise about $3,600. If you could help out, that would be terrific. People will meet at the boathouse. If you can join us, please RSVP to Judy Shechman or Barry Keller. If you don't RSVP, I'm sure it'll be good too, as long as you show up. And if April 10th doesn't work for you, please check out other options for walking on Mother's Day or at the retreat. And most importantly, please make donation to support the TBZ team goal of raising that $3,600. And details about donating online and walking are in happenings and the paper flyers in the foyer. We have quite a bit going on, but this Pesach week we're a little quieter as we get ready for Yontif. There is a Mechira Chametz form. We want to sell Chametz. It's in the section that says Pesach in our happenings. You can click on it. You get a form to fill out. And then we will also have the first Seder there will be no Kabbalat Shabbat service here. On the first day of Pesach, on Saturday the 16th, there'll be no Torah study, but the 10 a.m. service will of course commence. And the second day, Pesach, on Sunday, we do not have services. And on the last day, on the Friday night of the last day of Pesach, we will have a service. And the 8th day, Yisker will be said, and that's going to be on April 23rd at 10 a.m. All of this information is online. So you can check it out. If you want to get that information, just sign up for the shul. It's a good way to become a member. It's worth it just for the information, to be honest. And I wish us all well. So we are going to go, I'll make Kiddush here. Is there Kiddush downstairs? Is there wine downstairs?
We don't do so.
Okay, I'll make Kiddush here, and then we'll ask you to join us downstairs.
Min ha-mitzah karatia anani v'merchav yamim ha-mitzah karatia ani v'merchav
From the narrow places, I go into expansiveness. Make Kiddush now, if you'd like to rise for a moment, and then we'll continue singing as you leave. Al kei berachnu b'Shabbat v'kadsheu savrei. Baruch atah Adonai lemelech haolam, borei pri hagafen. We'll see you downstairs for Kiddush, or if you're going home, have a very sweet Passover, and hope to see you here more often. And no one got hurt badly during the contemplative service, so you can tell other people to come.